This is the beginning of what happens when you lose a democracy.
Richard Fine is an accomplished attorney who holds a Ph.D. in international law and was an antitrust attorney with the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. He is sounding the clarion call from his cell in the Los Angeles County Central Men's Jail, where he is being held without trial, without bail, without an attorney, and with every appeal denied.
Oh, there's absolutely no question that I'm a political prisoner. I mean, none whatsoever, because the political circumstance that has created this situation is that you have a straight, out-and-out abuse of power that is taking place here.
Okay, we got Bob Chapman coming up, your phone calls in the next hour, a bunch of important news I want to get to. Homegrown solo terrorist as bad as Al-Qaeda, FBI chief says. So they're really getting ready to use Homeland Security against the American people. That's what it was originally set up for. That's what Section 802 of the USA Patriot Act states. All misdemeanors are basically acts of terrorism, and all of your rights are stripped. So there's no doubt we're going deep into tyranny right now. They have the Belligerent Act, where citizens can be secretly arrested by the military, given enhanced interrogation, i.e. torture. But this case is going before the Supreme Court in their conference committee next Friday, and they're looking at actually hearing the full case. So this has now gone to the Supreme Court. So it's gone directly from a lower court in California all the way to the Supreme Court, not going through the other courts in between, because the judge has not recused himself and is holding this gentleman as a political prisoner, Richard Fine. And you can read the story at Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. Daily News has the headline, Supreme Court to hear Fine case. Here's another one out of TheCurrent.com. The U.S. Supreme Court will consider the case of a 70-year-old taxpayer advocate, Richard Fine, who was languished in jail for more than a year. And they're talking about holding him even longer. And we have a great advocate for justice and freedom. Leslie Dutton is a civic activist and former account executive and vice president of a national public government affairs firm. She represents diverse clients relating to the media, the U.S. Congress, and the California state legislature. As a founding president of the American Association of Women, Ms. Dutton also spearheaded issue-oriented campaigns ranging from community charter amendments to the University of California tuition policies. As producer for the Full Disclosure Network, she has received the 2001 Emmy for Public Affairs Programming from the Academy of Television and Arts and Sciences. And we're very honored to have her with us. I mean, this case is like something out of Kafka or 1984, but it's happening in America. And we see this more and more. This is not the only case like this I've seen, but she joins us now to break down. And it looks like we're going to have Mr. Fine on for 30 minutes or so in the last hour. So this will be a bifurcated or divided interview in this hour. And then coming up the next hour, we're going to try to talk from his jail cell if he can get to get through on the phone. From his jail cell. But Leslie Dutton, thank you so much for coming on with us.
You're welcome, Alec.
Okay, a lot of people aren't aware of this case. Recap the basics of what's going on and how outrageous this is and where this is going.
Well, it's outrageous because we don't hear about cases like this very often. The media keeps us in the dark. But Mr. Fine's case is unusual in the sense that he has drawn the line. He refused to obey a judge's illegal order, a judge who should have recused himself because he accepted illegal payments from a party in the case before him. That party was the L.A. County, and the county has been paying the judges here in the county for 25 years illegally. And there was a court case called Sturgeon versus the County of L.A. that the appellate court held that those payments were illegal because the judges work for the state. And the county is one of the biggest litigants in the county. So it is very it isn't hard to understand when Mr. Fine tells us that by their own admission, the county has never lost a case except for 3. The county's looking at this like risk management, paying off the judges, according to Mr. Fine. But what he did was, rather than obey the judge's illegal order to and the judge ordered him to pay $47,000, which he didn't have, to the county to cover the cost of an of an EIR report. That's an environmental impact report on a development. So Mr. Fine is sitting in jail because he refuses to cave into the corruption. And I have to tell you, the Full Disclosure Network has been covering this since the day before he was arrested when we interviewed him. He knew what he was getting into, but he didn't realize how bad the situation was. And what he's done in all the courts that he has filed from his jail cell, his appeals, his writ of habeas corpus, his motions, and so forth, is that he has documented everything that is happening. In the courts, when they responded, they violated every rule. They ignored his rights and due process, and they covered for each other. And
we're going to talk about that.
We're
going to talk about that in a moment. FullDisclosure.net is the website if you want to find out more. FullDisclosure.net. But again, you're a high-caliber person. I mean, you're civically involved at the highest levels of the community and government. Yeah, you're an Emmy Award winner. So, I mean, you've checked into this yourself. And Mr. Fine is no slouch either.
No, he has a Ph.D. in international law. He was an antitrust prosecutor for the Department of Justice in Washington. But it was when his career became so successful as a consumer and taxpayers advocate that he ran into trouble. And he had great success outside of L.A. County. But in L.A. County, he found, as he describes it, the corruption was so bad that there wasn't a fair shake in the courts, and that the people are not getting a fair shake. And he had it. He just decided it was time to draw the line and clean up the corruption in the courts.
Well, we've seen the case in Pennsylvania, and there's been other cases where it's admitted, and judges have now been indicted for getting, two judges, $2.6 million to take innocent kids and put them in a private juvenile lockup, and the company that ran that was secretly paying the judges to put innocent people in jail. So we know that Mr. Fine's case and this case in Pennsylvania and others are just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, you really put it very well, because since the Full Disclosure started covering this, we had no idea how bad it was. But it appears that the courts are the beneficiaries of many fees, and they gain money by the manner in which they handle the cases, whether it be child custody cases, whether it be environmental impact. But there is a monetary incentive for judges who benefit from the decisions they make. And there's no oversight. Although the presiding judges should be checking, there should be a checks and balances, but it's certainly not working here. And since we started doing this, people have been coming out of the woodwork to share other horror stories. And Mr. Fine has dug his heels in and said it's time to clean it up.
Okay, I want to show people a document cam shot who are watching at prisonplanet.tv. If you're a radio listener, you'll want to search the term, 2 judges plead guilty and sending kids to lockup. Pair accused of taking $2.6 million in payoffs to put away young offenders. 2 Pennsylvania judges charged with taking millions of dollars in kickbacks to send youth offenders to privately run detention centers pled guilty to fraud Thursday in one of the most stunning cases of judicial corruption on record. Now, the inside scoop I've got from former and current FBI, federal marshals, especially here in Texas, most of these small towns, in fact, I've seen it on CNN where they get the local judge on to admit, yeah, I'm getting part of the money from what we take, and they just pull families over, take their wallets. So people hearing this are saying, you mean on record in L.A. County, the judges are getting money, and specifically in this case, how was this discovered and how much money? Because, I mean, this isn't legal, obviously, and then somebody sues over it and they get locked up by the very judge who's in trouble.
Well, the judges the courts were warned before they started giving the money illegally. The Attorney General wrote an opinion and he sent it to the Superior Court clerk of the court and advised them that they should not do that. Mr. Fine, in the interview that we did with him in the Men's Central Jail, showed us the documentation.
Well, let me stop you again. This is